And welcome to episode 68 of Unbuckling the Bible Belt podcast. I'm your intrepid host, something different this week, Kate the Bluegrass Skeptic.
I'm your intrinsic host, Sharon Bush.
And I'm your other co-host, asshole Adam Fusen.
Oh, you're not an asshole. But, you know something, guys? I think folks might be noticing somebody hasn't been around lately.
I know.
Oh, Joe Kindick.
Yeah.
He had a baby and disappeared off the face of the earth.
And his boss is being a dick.
Yes.
That's usually, kind of how that happens. Once a boss knows that you've bought a house or got a family going on, they feel like they've got you.
They got to shake your world up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So essentially, folks, he's on a ship that isn't quite jiving with our schedule, and we're still kind of troubleshooting how we're going to make it work, because I know we can somehow keep Joe on board. We just got to let him get used to the baby hours and the new work hours. Which
yeah,
is
he's going through that adjustment period of a whole new time change.
Yeah, so we definitely want to make sure we take a little bit of a load off of his back right now and just help him get adjusted and then work ourselves back into his life. So, yes, folks, Joe will be back eventually. It's just a period of adjustment in time. But with that said, we are going to carry on this wonderful show. And tonight, we're going to be discussing all kinds of fun things.
We're going to be helping Adam out with a problem, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
What would an atheist do?
Oh, my God, I opened my fat mouth. Oh, God.
What's new about that?
Well, I kind of did it around a bunch of friends who didn't know my complete position on things. So we'll touch on that in a few minutes. But afterwards, we're going to follow up on the final part of Avery's interview. Super badass. Can't wait for it. She's our lady from Middle Tennessee who is tied up with the Black Panthers movement. And we've got almost a full hour episode from her. And if you are just listening to this, the first interview was on episode 67. Yes. And we're going to finish up that episode tonight. Can't wait. It was a really, really great interview, very informative of a white boy's standpoint of, hey, I don't know, I understand it, I don't know, but please tell me what's going on. And she's going to enlighten us on that. And I thought it was a really, really powerful interview.
It was informative. It's an interesting take because, it's the new Black Panther movement. That's kind of an extreme side view that I don't think many people get to really hear from. They only see headlines.
Hey, it scared the shit out of conservatives, and I'm down with that.
And here's the thing. When we're done with her interview tonight, we'll then probably maybe about 10 minutes, we'll all kind of talk about what we took away from it, if we have other questions kind of hanging out there that now we are even more curious about, and all that good stuff. So, folks, if you haven't got anything to drink yet or a snack, go do it now, because this is going to be a fun ride tonight.
Let's do it. Rock and roll, babies.
Welcome back, folks. It's now time for round one of the latest, greatest, newest game show on a podcast. What would Adam do?
Or what did Adam do?
What did Adam do?
What did you do?
Oh, man, I opened my big fat fucking mouth the other night. Actually, it was about a week ago. I have a theist friend that is best friends with my girlfriend, and they know her and her husband know my position, and they're open to it. In fact, they've questioned their own beliefs as well, and they're open-minded, somewhat still closed-minded, and we have these conversations. But at the end of the day, we love each other and give each other hugs, and we go on our merry own ways. Well, about a week ago, there was a group of people there, and this. I don't even want to go. I'll just go at this point. A lady that's mutual friends with the ladies that my girlfriend hangs out with, that they go out on a ladies' night, that type of thing, made the comment that she could never, ever trust an atheist. And my girlfriend whipped her head around and looked at me, and so did her best friend, who I'll call Diesel.
Oh, shit. Hold on. So there's like a crowded room of people?
It's about 15 people in a,
okay, so it's a
hanging
out
outside of a garage out in
I'm like
Castellian
picturing this
Springs.
in my mind, and like, was it one of those moments where that comment happened and you cut to the scene in like that 70s show, and just like your girlfriend looks over at you to check on you, like, oh shit, did he hear that look?
Yes.
You her like, I
It was
fucking
completely
heard that
that.
look.
It
oh
was
my
completely
God.
that, and after I looked off him, I looked over to her best friend, and she was cutting me the same fucking look.
Like, don't do it.
They weren't like, do it. They were more like, shut the fuck up. Don't you say a word. But I didn't.
You couldn't shut the fuck up, could you?
I couldn't, man. I was like, well, atheists don't lie to their kids. Who's more immoral? And they were like, some other people were like, what? And everybody in the room had the deer in the headlights look.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Yeah.
she painted with a really broad brush with that statement.
She
Did
did.
she have what was her reason for it? Did she give you reasons? Did you have a discussion, or did it just like devolve from there?
I don't exactly know where this conversation came about, but all of a sudden I heard out of the back of the corner of this ear from this Sumner County slut bag is that she's got a personal opinion on atheists.
She's okay. What qualifies her as a slut bag?
Okay, it's well.
Okay, rule number 1. Atheists can be assholes too. It's okay.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Tell me about the Sumner County slut bag. Go for it.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. I'm not. There's lots of people with children out there who left their husbands, whatnot. I mean, she's got 2 kids, 2 different dads. She's single and she's shopping around. Big deal. I don't care about that. I wouldn't call her a slut bag otherwise, but I'm just pissed off that she came on the attack without even knowing who the hell she was attacking or who was in the room. And I just basically spoke up and I said, well, atheists don't lie to children. And she's like, I don't lie to my children. I was like, oh, yeah? Do you...
Santa Claus, Easter Bunny?
Yep. I went down that road. I went down the whole road, man. And, it was like people were starting to pack up their goddamn coolers and starting to load up the cars and run out.
Now, was it because of the situation or realizing you were an atheist, do you think?
I'll probably a little bit of both, but I would say 50% of the people there that already knew my position on things. And I'm not an asshole towards people about it. I just try to present it. I know.
Except when you call them Sumner County
now listen,
slutbag.
I tone down the rhetoric when I'm talking to people out in the country. That's just all there is to it. But I try to present them with different ideas. And some of them are open to it, and some of them just pack up their beer, jump in the car, and go.
So, did you ever get to the point in the discussion where she explained why she could never trust atheists?
No. She was completely embarrassed altogether. She had nowhere to go.
She didn't expect to have a face put to her statement.
Yes, she didn't expect somebody there to stand up to her. And the end result is that she no longer wants to come hang out with Diesel and my girlfriend because of my views. And
so she's alienating your girlfriend too.
Yes, they're alienating them both because of my views, and I don't know where to go with it. Other than I can say I'm sorry for being right. I'm sorry for, being truthful. What the fuck do you want me to apologize for? I'm sorry your friend lies to their kid, and you did too. But at the same time, I'm trying to point out to you why it's a bad thing to do. I don't know. I'm confused by it all, really. I don't know where to go with this because it really hurts my feelings that my girlfriend's upset about this.
So it escalated, basically, instead of
Yes.
a conversation. And I guess that's always a tough thing when you're at the party and it's a casual back and forth kind of thing going on,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, normally this kind of company, I guess folks were comfortable as long as it wasn't waved like a banner, huh?
Well, I was standing in the garage in the backwoods of Tennessee with a big ass fucking Dixie flag hanging out in the back of the garage, and I'm not scared to express my views to anybody. I try to take everybody else's conditions whenever I bring these my point of view out. And because you got to do that delicately. God damn it, I can't fucking speak right. Fucking Sarah Palin over here. But
delicately.
Yeah, and I try to approach it with a different aspect of, hey, let's gather some information and let's get back at this. Challenge me on this. And, no matter what, we can walk away as friends no matter what. If we don't walk away as friends, that is your choice. Because you don't respect my views. And I've always kind of felt and thought that, and it's never really happened. And it really didn't happen to me. It happened to my girlfriend. And so that threw a whole new, situation and the aspect of something I'm not used to dealing with.
Does she expect you to, your girlfriend in particular, does she expect you to censor yourself? I mean, I know she's obviously cool. I mean, God, she puts up with you. But, I mean, do you have to censor? Does she expect there to be a mutual understanding that, you guys just don't have enough who are at least comfortable with you being blatantly open about who you are?
We've had conversations about how, I am aggressive whenever in my beliefs and when I talk to most people. And I've understood her aspect. And that's why I carry on that other aspect of once I get further out in the country, I got to slow the rhetoric down and create a open dialogue of a different type of thinking. And that's the best I can do for some of these people. And I hate to sound like an asshole. I just sounded like an asshole. They're good people. They're just like me. They grew up raised one way. This is the way you go. This is what you believe. It all starts at childhood indoctrination, and you got to be careful with that. You are fixing to basically kick people in the balls whenever you tell somebody that you don't think the Bible is accurate, and it's difficult out here. It sucks, but it's not going to affect me at all. And the fact that anytime I hear that type of rhetoric, I'm going to challenge them on their type of thinking. But it upsets me that now at this point, it's gone into a new realm that I've never been into.
Yeah, you kind of dropped extra. You kind of brought bystanders into the wreckage. So when you look back on the situation, you probably shouldn't have answered so roughly. Instead, maybe it was a question like, what do you mean? Or, not so much an accusation. Because that's how that came across, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I was fucking hammered.
Yeah. Oh, no. So
that doesn't help.
I was slightly hammered, not full hammered. I was still conscious to where I could enough to get into this goddamn argument.
He had the Jim Beam filter going on. Okay.
I had probably, just about, a little bit of Jim Beam, a little bit of Coke, and I was working on my third beer. But anyway.
I was just going to ask, is this relationship important to your girlfriend to have with this uppity bitch? I guess.
It disrupted the girls' night out.
Oh, well, you know what? Lots of things have disrupted my night out. And I get over it, and she can get over it too. I don't understand why it's such a big deal. People just need to get over things.
I mean, has your girlfriend said anything about what the response has been from this friend that kind of got hit full force with a face to her slander?
I haven't
she not
gotten
really telling
that far
you?
into it. I really haven't. I felt like shit ever since the moment that I found out that she didn't want to come out for the next girl's night.
So she's trying to punish everybody, huh?
Yeah,
you think it's punishing?
The event that went down was about a week ago, a little bit more than a week ago, and all this came down to yesterday on Sunday, and it's been a pain in my ass, and it's kind of made me feel like an ass. But what else was I supposed to do? Just sit there and say, be quiet, and let her preach out that she couldn't trust an atheist and nobody else should be able to?
I'll tell you, firsthand experience. I had this happen at a post office I worked for too many years, and all the time I would hear people talk about atheists are ruining this country. You have all these freeloaders who want to get expanded medical care because they can't afford it. And then, mind you, this is the post office. If you're a sub carrier, until your career, you don't get any benefits. They call anybody that needed any kind of assistance from the government a mooch. I finally had enough, and they were doing and running their mouth, and all of these women, and they want free health care and birth control, and I stepped out because they started talking about the LGBTQ community, and I'm bisexual, pans. I don't know what the fuck term they use anymore. Do any of you know? I mean, I love who I love.
I call it fucking horny.
I love who I love, right? I don't care what package you come in. If I'm attracted, I'm attracted. So I stepped out, and I said, it's really good to know that you feel that way about me. That's where I went. I didn't yell. I wasn't aggressive. I just got their attention. And a couple of them were like, what do you mean? I said, you're talking about me. It was a good kind of confrontation without accusing them of anything. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, like, when someone says something like, well, I could never trust an atheist, be like, why are you talking about me like that? That has such a level of gravity to it when it clicks in their head. Why are you talking about me like this? What did I do wrong? Why don't you trust me? You put that face there without being aggressive.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's effective. It's really effective. It kind of gets them gobstopped, but at the same time, you won't have everybody else in the whole room going, oh shit, ideological, uncomfortable awkwardness fight, blah, blah, blah. And you don't have to be loud about it. You can just pull her aside and go, why do you feel that way about me? Put your name, put yourself in what she's talking about. It's a good dialogue starter. It kind of makes them check the way they're talking about this issue or this certain subject or these certain types of people that they don't know how to deal with, they're scared of, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. It kind of opens a dialogue because you're putting a face that they've known for however long that up until this exact moment, I'm assuming she trusted you. Okay? And she's going to be like, oh shit, right?
Well, my girlfriend's more like, oh shit. Well, why do you have to continue on with this? And I feel like I'm being, I couldn't remain silent. She's not mad at me. She's just upset that all of a sudden the girls' night bullshit is disrupted. And I was like, well, I don't know what,
Word of advice. I think this is something that, it's like Sharon said, she'll eventually move past it and forgive you because there's a lot of worse things you could have done, I think, in your relationship.
Absolutely. Oh, she's not mad at me. She's just upset at the situation, and that situation consisted with me opening my big fat goddamn mouth. But I can't sit there. I'm never ever going to hear somebody say I can't, atheist or immoral, or I can't trust an atheist. I'm going to speak my fucking mind. I'm fucking sorry. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But
maybe you could learn to temper what you say a little.
Oh, it's so hard.
Still speak out, just temper it a little with a little thoughtfulness.
Okay, well, I need a coaching book on this shit. Maybe y'all could write me one up.
Trust us, you can do it. You just got to think about your situation. I know when you're liquored up, it's a little harder to think like that. But at the same time, it's about tact. And you can be confrontational where it proves her point. At this point today, she doesn't think she can trust you. See, he's an atheist, and look how he attacked me. That's what she's saying. So you validified her perceptions of atheists.
Oh, I feel so much better. Thanks, Kate.
I'm not saying she's right. Because what we perceive is not in actuality a real reality. You know how that goes. If you feel sad, you are genuinely sad. But the reasons why you're sad might be perceived wrong. And she doesn't understand she's perceiving things wrong, so it's just going to cause situations like this. If it wasn't you, it'd have been somebody else somewhere,
Well, I just really don't think that no matter where I went, I wouldn't, I'd be an asshole irregardless. I didn't go after her character. I didn't go after, well, you're a Christian and you live at home with 2 kids with 2 separate fathers, and you're trying to tell people who's more moral than, that, or anything of that nature. I didn't go off of that aspect, But I'm not going to sit there and take that shit. I'm sorry.
I understand it.
I wanted to call her a fucking hoe and tell her why her values were more fucked up than anything. Hers is more of what's problem with this country than anything.
Well, I guess you did temper what you wanted to say.
You did, apparently.
Yeah.
But you need to look at your own views, too. I mean, what is bad about her values? That she has different kids by different fathers, or...
And what's wrong with that? Because,
yeah.
Well, I'm not
talking
saying
to the
that.
A number one, I'm just saying, talking to A number one person right here for different kids with different
But
daddies.
here's a person who has okay, I understand how that's disrespectful, and I understand how even living after parents are disrespectful, because I moved back here with my mom when I was fucking 30. But at the same time, you shouldn't really tell people who are moral whenever you've got some bullshit going on in your own goddamn life you refuse to acknowledge.
If she's criticizing others who live the same way she does, I could see, like, you're being hypocritical as hell, bitch. Come on.
And it might be the old redneck in me that's going after her character because of what the hell's going on with her life. But I didn't go that way. I just went over the general fact that, well, we don't lie to kids. And all of a sudden, I started a fucking shitstorm.
Well, my best advice, like Sharon and I have been saying, you got to be tactful. And you got to phrase your argument in a way that doesn't validate the crap that's coming out of their mouth, and that's why I always say, it was good the way you put your face to her accusation, but it wasn't good either, right, because of the way you approached it, and instead you did, the way you approach it, you go, well, we don't lie. That's all you said?
No, well, yeah.
Well, what?
Yeah, I went into it. I just stopped it at the fact that the atheists don't lie to their children, and she said, "Well, that's just un-American," and I'm like, "Well, I'm American, and I'm not un-American." And like I said, at that time, people were fucking loading up their beers, drunk, and heading off to their cars. Oh, oh God, yeah, I feel like such an ass.
Next time, I think your best thing would have been just been, why do you feel about me like that? It would have taken her a couple seconds, but it wouldn't have been as confrontational. So next time, what would Adam do? I think I already know.
Probably the same thing. The same thing.
Oh yeah, I've got to do it. I'm sorry. I just do the same thing over. You're exactly right.
You're gonna be
I
the
had
author
nowhere to go,
of your
and
own misery.
I'm just going to pull out the bullwhip, show it to you, and I'm going to slap you around with it a few times. That's all.
Oh my God! The innuendo behind that.
Hey, I'm a Taurus. I don't believe in that shit either. Whatever. But anyway, it is who I is.
Yeah. All right. Well. Stay tuned, guys. Maybe there'll be another adventure another week. And what would Adam do?
God damn. Can't wait till I'm horny.
Oh, God.
Ow.
And now for the second half of our interview with Avery Corniell. We begin with a discussion regarding being Black and the problem with Christianity being pushed within the community.
It's very hard to be Black and be an atheist, at least in the open to your family and community.
It was. It's getting increasingly easier because those of us who are radical don't care. We are at a point where you're either with us or against us, and that's the stand that's the stance that I've taken, even amongst my own people. We are at war. The police the government has declared war on the Black man. Therefore, in a war, you have to take sides. You can't straddle the fence. When the Union was fighting the Confederacy, there were Blacks on one side, there were Blacks on the other side. Nobody stopped to say, well, you're Black, I can't kill you. No, we're at war. I don't care if you're Black, white, Japanese, whatever you are, we are at war and you can't straddle the fence. You're going to have to take a side. And if you don't like my view or you don't want to be on my side, fine, go over there. But what I'm not going to do is compromise what I know to be true, just so you can feel you can keep blinders on.
Well, escapism's a huge problem. That's politically, that's culturally, that's what religion is from my point of view. It's an escapist kind of mindset. And we're all, whether you're religious or not, even secular folks, we've got escapist issues. You know, some folks want to see the complete government fall apart. And I'm like, I don't want to live in Syria. You're fucking crazy. You know, and I have to put a foot down on that line. And so I hear and see what you're doing. And it's like, how do you think, or how ultimately you would rather they came to your side of the fence, I would hope, because you need the numbers.
Exactly.
So how are you going to go about it?
Let me ask you another question. From white people perspective, it seems like the NCAA CP thing, and Al Sharpton and all those people stand up for the black communities. I mean, are you essentially tired of those people being at the forefront of the black community?
I am, because they're not the voice of what is truly going on. When you speak of the NAACP, it was founded by whites. So therefore, it's inherently skewed. It's not the true. Doesn't give a true dichotomy of what race relations are in this country.
Well, I mean, it's still so in the 1960s. It's the National Association of Colored People.
Colored people.
We don't call you colored people anymore. You're black people, and I prefer to call you Americans and humans.
But the problem is that institution was founded on white standards to be a part of society. Standards which wasn't even fair to even put in front, because did you really have a chance to meet those standards anyway? I mean, it was set up to lose. That's blatantly obvious. I don't care how often they try to rewrite history or to show me that in school. I was at least fortunate enough to have an independent library to go run to and read as often as I could. But the average American is not always going to get this
or want to read
or understand that history has different versions, just like the Bible does. Hell,
right.
Like there's stories in the Bible that are told 3 times over with how many different endings. So I just wonder, how do you find the people that you want your movement to look up to lead you through this?
Well, people who are like-minded in terms of, I can't think of his name. I think his name is Dr. Dyson. When people who are willing, I'm willing to die for my cause. And if I find someone who is not as passionate about it as I am, then, you know, if you're not willing to go all the way, you know, the full Monty. If we get around someone and the conversation changes, and that's the problem I have with the NAACP. It's time out for being politically correct. Yeah. Nobody is politically correct.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, the cops aren't being politically correct. Nope. You know, it's obvious. So why are we being politically correct? The NAACP does nothing for me. They do nothing except march. And, you know, after I've worked a 12-hour day and run 2 businesses, I don't feel like marching. You know, I'm just, it's just not something I want to do. It's much easier.
I don't mean to laugh at the struggle, but that was hilarious.
I mean, it's true. And that's the stance that a lot of us radical, you know, activists have taken. You know,
I'm too tired to march, motherfuckers. I'm going to sit out here on the porch with my gun and I'm going to watch things.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'm not going to sit up here and hope to change someone's mind, hope that they'll come around. Either you'll come around or you'll get run over. I'm not going to continue to beg for you to accept me. You're either going to accept me or you're going to accept the consequences of not accepting me.
Right.
And that's just the way it is, you know.
I always had an attitude, and this is something I tell people when it comes to secularism, science, you know, free thought. I tell people all the time, I'm coming for your youth. They're my target audience. You know, when I'm out there meeting, greeting, and trying to influence thought, even in a store. Did you register to vote this year yet? 19-year-old kid. What do you mean? You know, I engage like that. Even on that small level, it makes a difference. I mean, have you thought about doing things like that too? And
absolutely. One of the things that I tell young black men without felonies, which that's not a very common thing. But what I found is they're not taught gun safety. That I would find a young guy in the hood who, you're 21, you have no criminal record, but yet you have an unregistered firearm, so you're destined to be a felon. Why not go and get a firearm legally? Keep it at home for protection. You know, if you're going to do things, we do have a legal system. You can't just go out and not follow the laws of the land. No matter how much they are against you, you have to do them the right way, because you don't want the government to have an excuse to come in and treat you the way that they treat you. You know, you want to be on the right side of the law. So when things happen, you do have a leg to stand on. So I do teach them that, because I was raised in the ghetto. I was raised across the street from the project. And I saw a lot of what we call the setup. It's all a setup. You know, and we have a saying in the Black community: if you want to keep something from a Black person, put it in a book, because we don't read. We were programmed that way since the beginning of slavery. To not to read. So we've carried that over throughout history, and now, so me, myself, and people like me have to read for them, and have to educate ourselves for them, and gain trust with them. So when we do go to them and say, hey, look, this is what's going on in the country. These are the new laws that have been put in place. This is what's happening. This is what we need from you. And they respond well to that, because they just don't know. But if they have someone that they can trust, who they know is there for their best interest, who genuinely has a love for them as a people, then they are receptive to that. And that's what I've tried to do in terms of my part in educating our Black youth, or youth for that matter.
Yeah, youth, period.
That's some deep fucking Mark Twain shit right there.
You're so weird.
Oh my goodness.
Shut up, Joe.
No, I completely understand the importance of the youth, though. I'm really glad you're at least thinking ahead generationally like that. I think sometimes I look at folks are my age. I mean, I'm only 39. That's like, oh, you're not old. But at the same time, it's just like a lot of folks my age are pretty much set with the way they're going to be, the way they want to think, how they're going to process the world. That's it. You try to change it, you're fighting all that compartmentalization. You're fighting all that apologetic padding, whether it's religious or political. Because, I mean, we see a lot of political radicalization right now. And you have radicalization, and then you have necessary movements and activism coming forward. There's a difference. But they try to always lump anything that goes against mainstream as radicalization. And I don't completely agree with that. Because if you can't question and thought and bring out thought and show different ideas, you've got stagnation. But yeah, I agree. I just don't know. I mean, it seems like is your best target is for the future, you think, and just keep with the kids? Or do you still try to talk to the older voters, get folks out there to vote?
You know, oddly enough, I'm 39 as well. And my age group is not there. We're not so closed-minded as it pertains to being set in our ways. Yeah. I found that it's been easier to change the minds of people that know me as a person, and that's another group that I've started with. I've targeted. Mm-hmm. I've targeted those that I've gone to school with, those that respect me as an individual. And I say, hey, look, this is what's happening, and I lay the facts and let the facts bear themselves out. And once they see, it's not so hard at that point to come over to what I call the right side. And then when they do, they bring with them their youth. And at the same time, you're going out and you're getting the youth. So It's not as hard with my age group. My mother's age group, on the other hand, it is, I don't even bother talking to them.
I'm in the same boat with that. I just don't, if it's 60 or older, I'm like, okay.
They'll be dead soon anyway.
I hope so, but our healthcare is improving, and you saw that age group votes the most. It's like, I hate to think that then someday I'm going to be that 60-something that isn't receptive. I'd like to think I'll always be receptive.
Yeah, and always open to change because the world is changing. People are changing. How often do you see Black people in the powers that they do have? The world is changing, and it's causing an unease and unrest in the people who know they've oppressed a group of people. You've oppressed an entire race of people for generations and generations, and yet with all these laws that have been built around keeping them down, yet they rise above it. So you've got to say to yourself, uh-oh. And rather than saying, uh-oh, let's do something more drastic to keep them oppressed, why not say, uh-oh, let's welcome them in? Because it's better to have someone with that amount of strength, that amount of integrity to be able to rise above all that. It's better to have them as a friend than an enemy.
Well, of course. And it adds to your knowledge base. That's what always blew my mind, is it's so alienating and isolating. How is that a benefit? I don't understand how you progress if you alienate and isolate all your options out there to work with and be associated with. I've never understood that. And maybe that's because of the way I was raised. And I saw my parents do this to my own family members and community. And I'm thinking, why did they do this? There was all these other people out here, So alienating, isolating, and all of us going, oh, wow, things are changing. What can we do? Those of us out here who just, right now, all we can do is really go to the rallies and try to offer whatever support, get the word out of this is here, this is there, try to be there if you can. What can we do?
Business.
Yeah, but what we're asking, Avery, is what could we do?
Okay. Money moves people, or the lack of money moves people. The lack of money will cause someone to go out and rob somebody. The lack of money will cause someone to commit suicide. The lack of financial stability will cause a movement in this country. And what we've been trying to do is tell our Black brothers and sisters, white brothers and sisters, to boycott. And I'm finding a strong resistance to that, because they say, well, I've got to eat. Well, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. You're going to put my sister out of a job. You're going to put my brother out of a job. I'm here to tell anyone that they won't be out of a job. What it will cause is these corporations, they will listen. Nobody's saying you don't buy toilet paper, you don't buy soap. But what you don't do is go on a shopping trip to the mall for at least 6 months. Say to yourself, I'm not going to buy Jordans, which I don't buy anyway. I'm not going to go buy True Religion jeans. I'm not going to go and buy Gucci perfume. If I have to buy the necessities, then I'll buy them. But I won't perpetuate the system of financial wealth, because as long as a person is still getting their needs met financially, they don't hear you. You've got Black people who have status, have money, and they don't hear us little people who are screaming, they're killing us. We're in the streets, they're killing us. They're not killing Black lawyers and Black doctors and Black congressmen. They're killing the everyday Black man who can barely make ends meet.
Right.
So the way to get them to listen is to hit them where it hurts. Because once the corporations begin to speak to government and say, hey, these people are not playing. I was unable to meet my profit margin this quarter. And because I couldn't meet my profit margin, I'm not giving to your campaign. And if I can't give your campaign, you won't get reelected. And because you don't get reelected, now we've got somebody else in office.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. And that seems to be falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, you definitely have the law on your side as far as that aspect of, but man, the media is against you. It's a weird combination, man.
Well, people's materialism is too. I often equated some of the changes you guys get, like when you talked about once some of these movements were ending in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and they were starting to get a little bit of what they want. It was like they got upgraded from a plain bun to a pretzel bun, and they were happy for a little while.
Exactly.
Until they realized, oh, there's mold on this bun and we're getting sick. This isn't good. I kind of look at that with the way some of our economics are in this country right now, with those of us, I'm poor working class statistical single mom of 4, you can imagine it's just been awesome. And, I see that there's this complacency. What kind of investment should we look to make? I mean, how can I invest in the community in a way that's meaningful and not seem like I know anything? Because
there's not an investment you can do. It's just kind of like with the climate change movement. You've got to divest into certain areas that are promoting, bad things in the world. It goes kind of like along with the NRA thing that I was saying earlier. I don't think they expected that. When the people rose up against the government, it was going to be black people shooting the cops that were oppressing them. But that's exactly where it's going to start out at. And I don't promote any of that shit.
Right.
Cops are good people, just like Christians can be good people. It's the ideology behind them or the laws behind them that are over-exaggerated that give them the place to overextend their reach, and it's wrong in so many aspects.
I agree, but to go back to what Kate was saying, as far as in terms of investing, not monetarily, but in investing into, like you said, when you see someone 19 in a store, you say, have you registered to vote? Knowledge is power, and I know people say that's so cliche.
It's not. Right. It's not.
It's not. Yeah. I wasn't addressing that aspect of it. That's what I breathe
every second of my life. Knowledge.
It's power. And I have a girlfriend back home who has 5 children, and all five of her children are a disgrace even to me. And I love her dearly, but it's because she didn't know any better. She didn't know how to raise them the way that they would be productive members of society. And so they are what they are. But when I went home, I pulled one of them to the side and I talked to him. And I said, listen, what you're doing is not a good thing. And it further perpetuates this ideal of black people being thugs, gangsters. We're not all that way. I'm not that way. And you know what he told me? He said, Aunt Avery, I don't want to be this way, but I don't have any money to eat. I didn't graduate from school. I can't get a job. I can't do anything. He said, this is the only way I know to eat. He said, what you want me to do, starve? And I don't want him to starve, but I don't have an answer for him. And I can't feed all of them. I can't go to the ghetto and take all of them and say, here, you don't have to rob anymore. You don't have to steal anymore. Mm-hmm. Just you eat. And I blame parents and I blame the government because they saw this coming. They did nothing about it. And now the monster that you've created, you want to further demonize and make him angry, because if you keep rattling the cage of a lion,
oh yeah,
and then you unlatch the cage, when the lion gets out, the lion doesn't just pounce on the person that rattled the cage. They're pouncing on whoever is in front of them. Hence, you have the black on black crime. It's not that black people just go around saying, oh, I want to kill my own.
It's desperation.
It's desperation. And they've been poked at for so long, they don't know how to channel that anger into something positive, or they've not been given the opportunity to do so. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't have an answer for that. I just know that it exists.
No, I think ultimately it comes back up to the way the legislation is, the way the government programs are set up. The programs are not really set up for you to become independent. I mean, I've looked at how some of the programs are set up. Some of the requirements, they're just not realistic because they want these requirements met, but then do they give you the tools to accomplish the requirements? And that's, I think, part of the problem too. It's a huge systemic issue, and it's just like walking into a garage, it's overfilled from, your aunt having passed away, and you're like, God damn, where do I start cleaning up at?
Exactly.
How do I pull out this one piece so that the whole thing falling down and crushing the rest? And you try to find what you can salvage and what needs to be tossed. And I guess that's just a big struggle that I guess it's even harder when you're on that side of the community looking at it and going, damn, I can't even begin to fathom trying to fix something. And it's something that you didn't even create the framework for,
Exactly.
You're cleaning up the result, and it's just not fair.
Just as with Hitler and the Jews, as a race and as a generation, our young Black people have been demonized. And so when I was saying to a friend of mine today, when you walk through the ghetto and they've got Black people afraid of Black people, when did that happen? When did that happen that I am afraid of this young Black man because he's walking towards me?
Because of association and all of the things that you see happen with law enforcement?
Exactly.
It rounds them all up as one. So
exactly.
I mean, I get it. They've divided your community. They literally divided it down to individuals.
It doesn't help when Hillary calls them super predators.
Oh. Or Palin calling them thugs, or just the way they write the laws, the profiles they train our military with.
Yeah.
The profiles, the videos they show them. Okay, this is this profile. This is what could happen, and they program these people with these ideas, and the whole thing's so flawed.
Did you see where the Game and Snoop Dogg took a bunch of people to LAPD graduation like last Friday to like do like a community outreach thing? Like, look, we're people, you're people. Let's not forget that we're all human beings here before you guys hit the streets and start becoming assholes and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and
maybe
we
they
need more of that.
Yeah.
We need more of that. We need. I see where people are giving out free hugs. We do. We need more of that. And everybody has a place in this fight. Myself, I have to say, being more on the radical side, like I said, I work 12 hours and run 2 businesses. I don't have time to be out there marching. But
and you got a couple of kids too.
I do. I have 3 children. So
Yep.
so I just, the time constraints just prohibit me from doing so. But I will do my part to protect what and to have some sense of sustainability for the good that we do have in our lives.
Bless your heart. Avery, I know it's getting late. I want to wrap up one last thing with you. I know you got to go back to work again on your 12-hour shifts. I would like your personal opinion of Donald Trump.
I'm with Ruta, Justice Ginsburg. He's a fake.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a fake. Donald Trump is no more a Republican than I am. Donald Trump is a businessman and he's a salesman. He will say whatever he has to say to sell himself to whomever he thinks will get him elected. If he thought for 1 second that he could be the Democratic nominee and get all the blacks and all the liberals to vote for him, that's what he would have done. So he's a fake. But what is even more terrifying is that he's ignorant. He's a fake that doesn't have a clue. It would be different if he had some knowledge or a plan or something to fall back on. He's
right, that's what we've been praying about it all the time. Yeah. He has nothing to back up what he's saying. Nothing at all.
And that's the scariest thing for you, isn't it, Avery? If someone like him were to be president, he's going to be delegating. And who's going to be delegating? The justice, the courts, the family programs, the education. Who's he going to line up to delegate? That's a scary thought, isn't it?
Right. And it's so, it's not so much that he doesn't know himself. He doesn't even know how to pick credible people to do it for him.
Yeah.
I can run a business, but I may not know the ins and outs of a particular field, but at least know who to employ. He has changed campaign managers now for the 3rd time. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't even know who to pick to help you get elected, then how in the world are you going to run a country? You have to make decisions like that. Yeah. That's the most terrifying thing to me. It's not that I think he's a radical Republican, but I think deep down in his heart, he just wants to be seen.
Yeah, it's money. It's an investment is why he's doing this. And I was telling folks, so if he goes in that Republican convention this week, he needs more than just his vice president laid out. He needs his entire cabinet picked along with his judiciary nominees, because I need to see full disclosure on what I'm up against, you know.
Exactly.
That's the part that's going to, I don't think he will personally set people back. It's the people he puts in charge of shit he doesn't know how to handle.
Exactly. And he's not even gonna know when it's wrong.
No.
Just like when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. That vice president came in blind. He didn't know what was going on. He was taking advice from people who he thought he could trust.
Yeah.
And look at the end result. And that is what I fear with Donald Trump. It's not that he's just an idiot. He doesn't have all bad intentions. He just doesn't know how to get things done.
He'll literally just be a mouthpiece.
Exactly.
And that's even worse than some of these other guys we've had in. Absolutely. Man. Well, Avery, I hope we have you on again. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely, honey. I hope you come back on with us another time in the future, honey. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we greatly appreciate it. Welcome back to Unbuckling the Bible Belt. Now that I'm through slut-shaming bitches from Sumner County, we're going to get on to our interview this evening. And we're going to get back into Miss Avery. And I thought her interview was absolutely informative and great and positive as well. Kate, what was your aspect of it?
I think she has some really good intentions, and she's really picked her cause. I think it's important that you stick with a cause that you can relate to. I'm not saying you should avoid ones you can't relate to, but you know what I mean. I think she's found what's got her motivated to push forward to encourage youth, from what I gather, kind of the same mindset. There's some things, you know, I want to let her say her piece and, you know, get her view out there and just kind of sit back and take it in case there's something I'm not understanding. And I think for me, the biggest thing is just, it's the new Black Panther Party. And that still, the connotations with it, I don't know if this is something like, you know, you have members who are part of the Ku Klux Klan or something, but I don't attend the meetings. And I don't know how she balances this with the Black Panther, the new Black Panther Party.
What do you mean, balancing the Black Lives Movement and the Black Panther Party?
More so the new Black Panther Party that she's, you know, a member of. It's considered a hate group in 3 different major institutes, including, you know, the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's something to keep in mind. It is a hate group. And that's something I wonder how you balance that. And this isn't just because of a negative publicity spin. Their own words, some of the leaders of this movement, it's scary. I equivocate them with Donald Trump.
Well, you know, I don't try to follow inside. I do follow the Southern Poverty Law Center, but at the same time, they classify plenty of people as hate groups.
So does the NAACP.
Yeah, exactly.
And a couple other groups. And I know everybody likes to dismiss the federal government, but when you're put on their list too, when you make 5 or 6 different lists, that's serious.
Well, the Black Panthers movement really, to me, coincides with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Well, this is the new Black Panther movement. There's a difference between these guys and the ones from the 60s. They are completely different entities. They are. Exactly.
They, but at the same time, black people got to be just at their fucking wits' end with all this shit, and I don't blame them for being so.
But why would you want? But here's my thing. Okay, I don't ascribe this to Avery at all. I look at the movement as a whole and who the leaders are. It's like, because I have been known to vote for the Democratic Party and their candidates, people are going to look at me sideways with some of the leaders we've had in there and some of the legislation they have put forward. Okay, both good and bad. I can't hide behind the whole, I vote Democratic, but I didn't always agree with this. I get that, but there's a point where you do have to be somewhat accountable, I think, for who you're associated with.
Right. I agree with that. I do.
And I think if the Democratic Party came out saying kill every goddamn Zionist in Israel, goddamn little babies, goddamn old ladies, blow up Zionist supermarkets, okay? That's what the Democratic Party was saying, and I'm a member of that. I would be held accountable for the fact I've got leaders that say those kind of things. That's pretty serious.
It's a touchy subject. It really is.
That's what I mean. And I wonder if it's one of those things, like, when I first was leaving church, I was like, well, I don't believe any of that stuff. You know, I just go with this, even though I was part of a Pentecostal church. You know what I mean? People kind of look at that like, but it's like when they would attribute, remember Reverend Wright, that extreme preacher of that Christian church Obama attends?
Right.
And people are like, well, he goes to this church with this preacher. I mean, how far can you distance yourself from something and then have to agree? Yes, there's some things these people are saying I agree with. There's some I don't. Yes, they've done these bad things to other people or groups. You know, where do you find your identity within that? How do you fight the stigma that your own group is creating around you? How do you find yourself? So that's something I'm trying to figure out, you know.
And it's hard for me to just, you know, the rhetoric and the stigmata of it is ridiculous around here in Tennessee. You know, one of the latest things that I've heard of lately is, you know, the stigmata, you know, once you go black, you know, whatever. But there's a new one out, and I was just like dumbfounded by it. And it's like, once you go black, you're a single mother.
I actually hear that one in my household, unfortunately.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's disgusting.
Well, it's obviously transgressed towards your direction.
Oh, yeah, it is. You're considered ruined, and it's horrible.
I'm sure there's a bunch, just like in white people, man. I mean, there's a bunch of fucking people who don't take care of their fucking kids.
Exactly.
But at the same time, that the stigmata has been placed on that's what black people do. Well, no, motherfucker, it's white people too. And it's just like, you know, when you back up and you look at the conservative charge of attacking people, well, we needed it. They changed it from black people to poor people and poor people to Mexicans. And they do that by where they tell people where government money is being spent. Well, motherfucker, I'll tell you what, you can go into any damn place you want to, and white people are the ones that are using more SNAP programs than anything. So you really need to step back and look at what you're saying, because they're claiming that anybody that's not white is a part of the problem.
Oh, I agree. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you'll have minority groups, extreme groups, doing the same thing about white people. The white people are always the problem at all times. You know, I don't know if I can... Of course, there's some brunt to bear. But how much of it is your own authoring? How much of it is your own writing of your own misery? Some of it, the situations you cannot prevent, you cannot get out of. I have little doubt of that. I've experienced being helpless. And you have no power. I get that. But there's also a point where you are adding to your misery, too. But, no, I mean, I found her interview very interesting. I found, you know, with her background growing up in South Carolina, you know, she's come a long way. From the way it sounds, she's beat the statistics, and that is just...
Oh, she certainly has. She's
fucking
fantastic.
Awesome. I love meeting people who beat those fucking statistics and just be like, look at me. And she can be that role model, that difference.
She did that. I mean, she is that role model, and I continue to support her and what she's doing. And she's a leftist, and here's what sucks. When you look at the label of Black Lives Matter... Well, of course they fucking matter. But then again, you got to look at the other end of the spectrum that probably white people came at. Well, all people should matter. Well, yeah, all white people should matter. But white people aren't being gunned down as much as black people are by cops. And I can see that. And I'm not going off a liberal biased media bullshit. You can see it for yourself. Go look for it. Of course, white people are being shot, too. Everybody's having their rights infringed on, but the movement that it seems to be happening the most is against black people. In my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, in certain areas where you live and certain things that you experience, you're going to see. I would never argue that there is not a racial bias. I think my only argument is, what flag do you march under to represent and fight that racial bias?
Well, all lives didn't matter until black lives did.
Oh, there was a lot of groups before them.
Well, this is true.
I just think that this one, thank you to social media, and thank you to media with an election year. I think it's an election year coming up. I think it's the fact that Obama's in his last term. I think people are wanting to pay attention. I just hope that it goes beyond talking points for campaign trails.
Well, I mean, I live in an area where I sat there and watched, about 30 of my high school graduates post out that thank God that Muslim traitor will be out of the office in 6 months. And I'm like, y'all motherfuckers are fucking idiots. I mean, what do you want? You want us to go back into war again? There's just so many all these aspects, but they're just so misguided about shit. It's ridiculous. Y'all follow into this media bullshit, and it drives me fucking nuts.
Well, what about you, Sharon?
Well,
what'd you take away from it so far that you've heard?
Well, so far I've taken away that there are multiple perspectives to be had from everybody. Going into this interview and some other discussions that we've had, I was 100% pro Black Lives Matter, and I've learned that there is so many different layers of what's the word I'm looking for? So many different layers to this problem.
Of responsibility that needs to be laid out.
Yeah, it's not as simple as, Black Lives Matter they're right, or Black Lives Matter are wrong. It's not that simple. There are multiple facets of, things that need to be taken account whenever you are discussing and thinking about racial issues, other than just who's right and who's wrong, and everything is, pardon the pun, black and white. It's not.
But it seems like, and I see that in some of these groups, they kind of really, they make it feel that way sometimes, and I guess that's where, when I was, listening, I feel like there's a lot of history being glossed over. I think the message of equality for all is a very sound and obviously well-founded call that needs to be made. And that there's a responsibility for all of us to help the ones that are being treated as the lesser, to be brought up to our same level. We should be equal. Obviously, I don't think it's all equal at all. Not even close.
Yes, not. And here's my thing. Of course, all lives matter. But you can't really back that statement up until you agree first that Black Lives Matter, because it's more than obvious that there's a targeting and, racial divide going on between cops and about every, it's just, of course, again, you'll see a white kid or a white person get shot or some type of conflicting problem with the police. But 9 times out of 10, it's against a black kid.
I'm not disagreeing that it's not racially motivated problem. I'm just saying that there are many facets to this problem, and it's not simply, is Black Lives Matter the movement right, or the new Black Panthers right? Everybody is right in their own way.
In their message that they should all be equal. My attitude is, all lives don't matter until they all do. Okay?
Right. I see what you're saying.
And
I see what you're saying.
I completely agree that right now all lives do not matter. And that's the key problem. I think that's where they get the whole all lives matter phrase. The real phrase is all lives do not matter right now.
I like that perspective on that, Kate.
And
that's
they won't
fantastic.
all matter until they actually do matter.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
And if you were going, and I will never deny that there's inequality in the justice system and how it's applied. The training is terrible for law enforcement.
Right.
The general public, Avery brought this up. The general public will look at young black youths in a mall as miscreants, possibly up to no good. White young teenagers at the mall, they're acting like asses and they let it ride. There's no automatic fear. There's no intrepidation. And that's because society is being programmed to a certain extent. The question is, how much of this is, the majority creating this through the social system, warped statistics that are being released by government, warped stereotypes being purported by the media, and that includes their own. Like she said, they should they should boycott people's goods. Those Kanye West endorsed Beats headphones, Tanya and some of these folks out there, they're helping purport this bad thug appearance, their stereotype.
Right.
She's right. It's not just, it's also within their own community. She recognizes this, you know. Some of these folks are purporting this, and they need to stop. They're creating this idea that for whatever reason, we are always in potential danger, you know. And that's stupid. It is stupid. And it's dangerous. It's really dangerous.
I do agree. You know, it goes back to that stigmata thing of, you know, once you go black, you're always a single mother. But where does it stop? You know, what is the answer to this? I mean, do we all just shut off the news and start talking to one each other? That'd be fucking fantastic. That'd be a great place for us to start. But still, even if you were to do that and get to that point, there's always this stigmata that's already embedded in everybody's head that is the source of the problem, and it is and it isn't. There are still you gotta. Oh God!
Well, no, I mean we are programmed with a bias.
Yes, we are programmed.
Anyway, genetically, we have a bias, but there's also this conscious bias that we're programmed with what we see on TV, statistics, news, schools. You know, the community around us. There's a lot of different things to give us biases. Recognizing it and trying to weed it out is difficult. I don't think you can 100% ever get rid of bias. And you can't 100% not act on it because some of it is subconscious.
And words themselves, for certain people, are biases and triggers. And as much as it would be nice to be able to talk to somebody, you may not end up talking the same language. You may both be speaking English, but the words you are using may hold some terrible bias for the person you're talking to. And until we can agree on a language that we all can say is not biased, is helpful, we're never going to be able to get anywhere. Because I keep going back to this example I tried to have with a person I thought was a friend at the time who was African American. I tried to have a conversation with them about what would be helpful for me as a white person to do to help the black community. And, you know, they took offense to it, that they thought I was trying to be uppity, like I was somebody...
Like you were trying to show pity.
Right. And that was not my intention at all. But
that was just one person, and I think that's right there. That was one person. It's like I tell you guys whenever I say, hey, interviews, what's the worst thing they're going to tell you?
No.
Okay, so what do I tell you to keep doing if they tell you no? Go to the next person.
Right.
How can I help? Go to the next person. How can I help? They're not going to all shut that door. But they're not all going to have that same protective shield of don't want to be exposed. I don't know if there's an agenda or not. You know, I can get why some of them say no. I can get why some of them see it as offensive because they're like, well, here I go, having to have some white person help me again. You know, like they always try to say they've done for us when we've done it ourselves. You know, I can get that. I can get how it would feel like pity if someone's like, how can I help further your cause? What can I do? And I think one of the biggest things you can do is just keep going to the next person and the next person. You will get a yes. And sometimes that no was still a helpful no, because they'll remember that offer. They'll remember that intent, that concern, that acknowledgement. And that's what I tell people. Don't give up on a single no. That one person might have said no, but it still might have had an effect that was good. You never know.
Right.
I think overall, I found her interview very interesting from, you know, an extreme point of view, because she says, hey, this is a war on the black man. Those are her words, you know. And I can see from her point of view how it is a war. But I don't know if I agree with the idea that unless you're completely on my side, go on down the road. I don't know if I can agree with that. But that's her view. And I don't say she's wrong, because there's more than one right way to handle things, obviously. I just don't know if that's something I would do, to have that kind of a resolute, unflinching, this is the line. You're either on my side of it, or you're on the other, and I want nothing to do with you. I don't know if I can handle that, because to me, that's kind of dogmatic.
Right. That's the conservative way of thinking, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I think if it's family, if it's friends, it's almost like an emotional extortion, you know?
Well, there's not really not too much maybe about it, Kate. I mean, once a person says it's either my way or the highway, they're basically blocking off any type of engagement of knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the conservative way of view of what I've been dealing with. I talked about that in my other segment about, friendships and trying to engage people in active conversation. I've done that. I know I attack people a little bit and make them feel inferior, but at the same time, they're completely closed to any type of free thought or dialogue as far as a different form of view and an opinion.
All right. Well, so as you know, and we'll have more details following at the end of the segment. I told you we'd save this for last. You know, this cliffhanger's not over. That we ended the interview with Avery tonight. Now, she's the extreme side of, the BLM movement, I think, with, Black Power and I don't know, I think she kind of falls into the Pan-Africanism kind of a little bit, and that's okay, I think she's a big amalgamation of, a bunch of these movements that are kind of getting a resurgence with what's going on, and it's good. They need to bring awareness at the very least.
She supports a peaceful activism, but at the same time, she supports keeping a goddamn gun in the house and keeping your camera phone ready.
I mean, she supports the new Black Panther movement, so she's not all about peace and love. But that's okay. That's I'm not attacking him. Just it's a statement. It's what it is. It's what it is. But
right.
The other side of the issue, though, is we actually had an interview, another, Black American. His name's Dion McNeil, and he'll be on talking with us here probably for the next week or so. He's the opposite side of the coin of Avery, and he'll actually, and this is kind of, oh my gosh, because he actually takes the view that a lot of what we see as police brutality purposely purported against black men, like Avery sees it, he says, no. This is not racism. This is ineptness. This is bad training. And he's a vet. So, I mean, he served, I think he said 4 years in Afghanistan.
Yeah, he served 2 tours.
4.
Yeah, 4.
4 tours.
Four tours.
Yeah.
Cliff served 2. He served 4.
Yeah. Dion is going to come on, though, and I don't know if I agree with him. That sounds really extreme to say this is not racism. This is bad training only.
Well, he doesn't just say that. He puts the blame off on black men in the community as being part of the problem.
And classism is part of the problem.
Exactly.
But it's still a pretty, really opposite end of the view that you would not really hear at all in the media at all from a black man right now. I
was very reluctant to say, okay, this could be cool. I really never thought of that aspect of things, but he brings the heat.
Yeah, I mean, we'll discuss more of that, next week and that when we've got his interview on with us. We want to be kind of fair about this. I mean, it's really not fair to have one extreme and another extreme, but we didn't just want to have one layer of this onion, as Shrek would say. Onions have layers. And so we've got, Avery, we're going to have Dion on as well. I don't know if I'll find anybody for kind of in the middle. I don't know. I think if people listen to both extreme sides, I think you can kind of come to your middle ground. But that's me. I couldn't say for sure. And maybe we'll get some fans to kind of put their 2 cents in on what they think. If it's right, what's wrong, that kind of thing.
Yeah, feel free to email us, drop us some questions, jump in on the conversation. We'd love to put you in. And we'll definitely address those issues. Please feel free to email us or contact us. We'd love it.
Love it to death. So definitely tune in next week. I'll have more details to follow this segment.
Kate, the Bluegrass Skeptic here. So as promised, as we end this show this afternoon, I wanted to go ahead real quick and remind everybody that we're going to have another interview this upcoming next episode 69. What a lucky number. With Dion McNeil, also known as Phalanx Unhinged, I believe is what his blog is called on YouTube. He's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. As we had mentioned, we would have someone on. We want to try and be fair as far as giving opposite sides. And I know there's more than just 2 sides to this. And as people come around or we have conversations, if we get other point of views that we haven't heard before, we gladly bring them on the show. But in the meantime, so you had Avery with, the new Black Panther Party movement, and then this coming week, you're going to have an 8-year veteran of the military services who served 4 years in Afghanistan come on. And he has quite a different perspective on what we've been seeing in the media, the news. He'll have some inflammatory ideas on social justice warriors. And yes, he is being a little condescending when he uses that term. But he does have some points of discussion that we thought might be interesting to hear. Again, we would love to hear from everybody. If you want to send us video, audio, like a call-in kind of thing, please feel free to do so. You can send it to us on chat via Facebook Messenger, no problem. I think it's 15 seconds on there, so get it to the point. But we would love to have opinions, and we'll get you on there to hear what you have to say as well. Also, next week, we'll be discussing more about the RNC and the DNC, what the VP picks represent for our upcoming future in this country, as far as their influence within the House and Senate. Might even talk to a few upset Bernie Sanders supporters and those who just can't seem to find a way to vote for anybody at this point. So catch us next week. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to check out our main website, www.unbucklingthebiblebelt.com. If you're interested in any type of advertisement on our show, if you would like to possibly contribute to our show, you can also go to patreon.com/UTBB podcast.
Whenever any American's life is taken by another American unnecessarily, whether it is done in the name of the law or in defiance of the law, by one man or by a gang, in cold blood or in passion, in an attack of violence or in response to violence, whenever we tear at the fabric of our lives, which another man has painfully and clumsily woven for himself and his children, whenever we do this, then the whole nation is degraded. Among free men, said Abraham Lincoln, there can be no successful appeal from the ballot to the bullet. And those who take such appeal are sure to lose their case and pay the cost. Yet we seemingly tolerate a rising level of violence that ignores our common humanity and our claims to civilization alike. We calmly accept newspaper reports of civilian slaughter in far-off lands. We glorify killing on movie and television screens, and we call it entertainment. We'd make it easier for men of all shades of sanity to acquire weapons and ammunition that they desire. Too often we honor swagger and bluster and the wielders of force. Too often we excuse those who are willing to build their own lives on the shattered dreams of other human beings. Some Americans who preach nonviolence abroad fail to practice it here at home. Some accuse others of rioting and inciting riots, have by their own conduct invited them. Some look for scapegoats, others look for conspiracies. But this much is clear: violence breeds violence, repression breeds retaliation, and only a cleansing of our whole society can remove this sickness from our souls. For there is another kind of violence, slower, but just as deadly destructive as the shot or the bomb in the night. This is the violence of institutions, indifference, inaction, and decay. This is the violence that afflicts the poor, that poisons relations between men because their skin as different colors. This is the slow destruction of a child by hunger, and schools without books, and homes without heat in the winter. This is the breaking of a man's spirit by denying him the chance to stand as a father and as a man amongst other men. And this, too, afflicts us all. For when you teach a man to hate and to fear his brother, when you teach that he is a lesser man because of his color or his beliefs or the policies that he pursues, when you teach that those who differ from you threaten your freedom or your job or your home or your family, then you also learn to confront others, not as fellow citizens, but as enemies, to be met not with cooperation, but with conquest, to be subjugated and to be mastered. We learn at the last to look at our brothers as alien men with whom we share a city, but not a community, men bound to us in common dwelling, but not in a common effort.